Welcome. It is time for another Constitution Study television episode right here on Constitution Study TV. My name is Douglas V. Gibbs. You can learn more about me at douglasvgibbs.com, and it's time to talk about the preamble. The preamble is broken up into four parts. We have an introduction, the reasons, the results, and the conclusion. Now, the introduction is we the people of the United States in order to. In the last video, we talked about we the people and the importance of we the people. It does not mean that we are a democracy. It means that this system was established by the consent of the people, and the consent of the people is important with it. When we get to Article 1, Section 7, and we talk about the fact that the power of the purse strings lies with the House of Representatives, that's when we'll get more deeper into the consent of the governed, as it says in the Declaration of Independence. Now, we the people of the United States, of these states that are united. The states also are a constituency. They are important. And when we get to different parts of the Constitution, we will talk about state sovereignty and states' rights, the importance of the states having sovereignty and being one of the constituents, having a check against the people, a check against the federal government. There's all kinds of things that go there along with being a republic. But the next words are key because what it does, it helps us establish the breakup of the preamble. In order to. What's following those three words are reasons. Now understand, the preamble has no force of law. It's an introduction. It's an introduction saying, this is what we're doing, this is who is doing it. It's sort of like in a contract, right? At the beginning of the contract, it names the people who are in the contract. We the people of the United States. And then the reasons for this contract. In order to, and there's four reasons listed. To form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, and provide for the common defense. Form a more perfect union. The union had prior to the Constitution was under the Articles of Confederation. A confederation is a more loose-knit union where all of the power lies with the members, and the organizing body actually has very little, if any, power. In the case of the Articles of Confederation, about the only power that the union as a whole had was to its Congress or its delegation could declare war, and that was about it. And then anything that went along with the Articles of Confederation also took 100%. So if only one state didn't like what was going on or didn't like what the proposal was, it couldn't pass. And it made it very unreasonable to do things. Also, the reasons to establish a more perfect union under this Constitution was Shays' Rebellion. Shays' Rebellion in 1786 had shown the Founding Fathers that the Articles of Confederation was flawed, that it did not go far enough. They feared a bigger government. They feared big government. And in fact, they just fought a revolutionary war against big government, against tyranny. They understood that tyranny always rises out of a centralized system, a central government. But the Shays' Rebellion had proven that the Articles of Confederation was too weak and they needed a stronger central government. So how do you create a bigger government, but yet limit it in such a way that it doesn't become a tyranny? Let me rephrase that. Under the Articles of Confederation, what they had was a sheep. What they needed was a lion. But if you have a lion, if you create this lion, the problem with lions is that lions eat you. So how do you create a lion but keep it from eating you? Well, you put shackles on its ankles. You put it in a cage. You keep it under control unless you need to unleash it against your enemies. Then you let the lion out full throttle. That's what was needed. A more perfect union. So, this federal government would give more power to the central government. Let's get back to Shays' Rebellion. Shays' Rebellion was a rebellion of the American Revolution veterans. They were upset because the money they had been paid was essentially worthless. They went to pay their bills. None of their creditors would take it. They were being sued by their creditors. They got to the point where they were blocking the steps of courthouses to keep from being sued. They tried to get into the Springfield Armory, and when the different entities, governments, local governments appealed to the Union's centralized system under the Articles of Confederation, they said, well, you got to do something about this. Well, they couldn't tax to raise money, put together a force. They didn't have a standing army or anything else to take care of the situation. And they couldn't call upon the states to use their militias because it was the militias that were rebelling. So it became apparent, they became aware that a stronger government was necessary. At the Annapolis Convention in August of 1786, Alexander Hamilton recommended a constitutional convention to fix the Articles. George Washington, for years, had been saying they needed a new constitution, a stronger system. So, and a lot of them feared the possibility. But, if it's to fix the Articles, they were willing to do it. Following May, they did get together, but they wind up not fixing the Articles of Confederation. They wound up writing a whole new constitution. Okay, so that's number one, form a more perfect union. Number two, establish justice. The word establish is key here. The word establish is a word you use if something didn't exist before. Establish justice. Well, the states already had legal systems. Each one had an individual judiciary, and so this is a clue that the Constitution does not apply to the states. It's not creating something for the states. It's creating a whole new system. Establish justice, to establish a system of justice at the federal level, to establish also justice in the sense that proper governance under the rule of law is also justice. So establish justice. Ensure domestic tranquility. The states were like siblings. If you remember growing up, if you had a sibling, you used to fight like cats and dogs. But yet, when push came to shove, you were there for your brother or your sister. I remember my sister and I used to fight horrendously. But if someone was picking on my sister, Big Brother was there. We fought like cats and dogs, but we defended each other. The states and former colonies, they were the same way. So here's the problem. When they were fighting, it was usually over trade, commerce, manufacturing, boundaries, that they were fighting constantly. And so the federal government would be created to be a mediator between the states to ensure domestic tranquility. Also, the domestic tranquility comes from Shays' Rebellion itself. If a government is strong enough to stop a rebellion like Shays' Rebellion, once again, they're also ensuring domestic tranquility. So that one kind of has a twofold also. And finally, provide for the common defense. Once again, there was no central armed force. So while the militias were great, who did the Navy belong to? Who was in control of the Navy? What about a standing army that needed to be sent overseas every once in a while? All of this falls under the provide for the common defense. Now, along with common defense comes the power to tax, which we'll talk about later on, Article 1, Section 8, but which also would come along with this. They understood, and because taxation was not a good thing. A government needs money to function, but war always created unexpected expenses. And so the power of taxation, as it says in Federalist 45 by James Madison, would be connected to these external authorities that the federal government would get, including common defense. Now, so those are your four reasons. And if you're watching this video on the right, to your right, my left, is a list of the introduction and the reasons and the results, so you can follow along. All right, so now the results. Those were the four reasons. Now for the results that will happen if those four reasons are being followed properly. Promote the general welfare. Notice that in general welfare, the G is lowercase. Emphasis was normally based on capitalization. So the welfare was the key here. Now, when we hear the word welfare in today's society, we think things like food stamps and benefit programs. That's not what they meant. Welfare, in the language of that time, and you can look this up in the 1828 Webster's Dictionary, welfare meant a state of all's well, a condition of all's well. So to promote the general welfare wasn't an excuse for them to do things and promote the general welfare. The general welfare comes up twice, by the way, in the Constitution. Also comes up in Article 1, Section 8, very first clause. But once again, it's not supposed to be an excuse for them to do whatever they want, and that's the way they use it, by the way. They'll say, well, it was for the general welfare, so we have the authority. No, that's not what it meant. Welfare is a case or condition of all's well. So to promote the general welfare, to promote a general condition that all's well throughout the country, that is a result if the first four reasons, which what we already went over, are followed. Then the other result is secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Blessings of liberty. These are our rights and our freedom that's given to us by God. But also they understood that with freedom comes responsibility. Also, notice the word secure. The word secure is also used in the Declaration of Independence when it talks about government to be created to secure our rights. Secure is different than protect. To protect something is to put up a shield and protect it. And one of the greatest dangers against our liberty and our rights, and our natural rights, is government. So we don't want government to necessarily shield against itself, or we want them to secure the blessings of liberty and secure our natural rights. Secure would be to hold in place, keep it where it belongs, keep it in our possession, because our blessings of liberty and our natural rights belong to us. And that's why the word secure was used, to hold it in place. You know, it's like when I was a kid, you know, we had those roller skates you could strap onto the bottom of your shoes. Those straps were there to secure them to your shoe, to keep them where they belong, to keep them in place. You don't put your child in the car seat to protect them. You put them in there to secure them. You're protecting them by driving safely. But in case there is a problem, the car seat holds that child in place so that they are secure and safe because of that security. So the word secure is used. Secure the blessings of liberty. Blessings, that's a religious term, a godly term. Blessings of liberty, in other words, our God-given liberty, our God-given rights. Secure the blessings of liberty, secure our God-given liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Now you'll notice in the Constitution, when you read the preamble, the word ourselves is lowercase, the word posterity is capitalized. That's also for a reason. They didn't italicize back then for emphasis, and while almost all of the nouns are capitalized in the Constitution, one of the primary reasons was not necessarily just because they were nouns, but because these were important words that needed emphasis. Here, the emphasis is on posterity. What the Founding Fathers were saying, in other words, was, yes, we wrote this to secure the blessings to ourselves, but especially to our posterity, capital P, those not yet born, posterity. So it's an emphasis on the future generations. And then after we have our reasons and our results, so the introduction, we the people of the United States, our reasons to form a perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, and then the results, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, capital P, is the conclusion. Do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. The word for is very interesting. Of would be a term that you would use for a nationalistic single entity country. But it's for the United States of America, for these states that are united. It is a union, a pluralistic item. You know, it's funny because when you look back on history, long ago, before the Civil War, the American Civil War, the war between the states really is the proper name. The states, it was the United States are. It was a plurality. It was a union of states. These states that are united, the United States are. After the war between states, it became the United States is. A singularity, a singular nationalistic term. And the reason why is because they were pushing federal supremacy over the states. A nation, a national system, rather than a federation of states, a federal government. It's a federal government because we have a federation of states, states that are united in a union, a voluntary union, mind you. So, anyway, that's the preamble. That's the introduction. We, the people of the United States, in order to, tells us we have 4 reasons coming. Form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, and provide for the common defense. Then the results that will happen if those reasons are followed. Promote the general welfare and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. And then finally the conclusion, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. That's our preamble. Thank you for listening. I am Douglas V. Gibbs. You can read my blog at politicalpistachio.com or go to my site, douglasvgibbs.com. I'm also a public speaker, so if you want to invite me out to your group to speak, let me know. constitutionspeaker@yahoo.com, or you can go to douglasvgibbs.com, hit the contact, and send me an email that way. Also, go through these videos. We're going to go through the entire Constitution, but you know what? These videos, getting out there, the books, the research, all of that does have costs that go along with it. And so if you can, I would love for you to help the cause. You can go to patreon.com/DouglasVGibbs or DouglasVGibbs.com and hit the donate button. Or you can go to politicalpistachio.com and hit the donate button. All those ways, if you want to give some money, and we really need monthly contributors. We only have a couple, and between funding the radio program and Constitution Television, Constitution Study Television, and the podcast, and all of the books and all that, it does take revenue to do so. So if you can help fund the campaign, help fund the efforts, really appreciate it. Also, there's a 501c3 that I'm a part of, Constitution Association, and we have events every year, monthly and annual events. And also, if you say, well, Doug, I'd love to help you out, but you know what? I'd really like to be able to write it off. No problem. Give to the 501c3 at constitutionassociation.com. All right. Thank you very much. Next video, we're going to be going through legislative powers, Article 1, Section 1, and separation of powers. The two really tie into each other. We're going to talk about separation of powers in the next video. Be sure to hit the subscribe button so that you know when the next videos are coming, and share this. Share this with all of your friends. We'll see you next time. Bye.